my professor that I have right now really pushed me on this idea that, because we talk about like how mass evil can happen in society, and the masses, are desensitized to it, and how, one of the keys to undoing the mass evil, enslaving millions of Black people being one of them, how we have to center empathy in the conversations that we have, but also like the things that we learn. I think people don't often, I don't think anyone would want to be subjected to some of the very dehumanizing things that an enslaved person in the United States was subjected to, as we read about it in detail at length, with all of the different primary sources that literally are images of how we were dehumanized. No one wants to be subjected to that. And so when you center empathy in your listening, when you're reading, when someone is telling you, hey, this thing that you said was harmful, I think it forces you into the discomfort.
But I also
forces you into discomfort.
I also think my push here is like centering empathy. When you empathize with someone, that means you acknowledge their humanity.
Yeah.
And I mean, and maybe this is a little bit radical, but like, I just don't know that enough people humanize Black people for them to then center empathy. So like when we think about like police killings, I feel like it was Philando Castile when the officer shot him he was sitting in his driver's seat. The officer shot him with his child's mother and his child in the car. The officer actually kept shooting after he was already dead, right?
Yeah.
And like, this was not an attempt for me to villainize that officer, but it is to say you felt a very real fear of this unarmed Black man in this car that you kept shooting after he was already dead. Like, what did you think he's gonna come back alive, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's like there's a subconscious thing to be named. I think a lot of psychoanalytical writers write about the psychosis of it and people desiring Black suffering because I think it's like there's a level of dehumanization that happened during chattel slavery that I think permeates generations of like, if you do not humanize this person, it is actually more challenging for you to center empathy. It is actually more challenging for you to feel bad for me because you actually don't see me as human. And it's not like an active, intentional decision. You don't see me as human, but there are subconscious ways in which you have not humanized me. When we think about like the medical industry and we see Black women, there's research about Black women being prescribed less pain medication and how that is tied to people thinking we can endure more pain. And that is a subconscious that is a subconscious thing that is at play, right? And it's like,
which makes no sense.
How do you resolve subconscious thoughts about what I can and can't bear as a Black woman, or and I think that is for me why it might be hard for people to center empathy. When
I can see that.
Necessitates a prior step.
And I think that again loops back to like that's why we have to do the work of educating our children, because I think we developed all of that subconscious way of thinking about groups of people through our upbringing. All of the words that we hear and that we associate with a particular group of people, all the images that we see, all of the sayings or phrases that we hear in our environment, not just within our family unit, but like in all the information that we consume. And so how do we I think first, for sure, we have to take a broader approach as society to be more courageous and just like saying, no, we know this is racist, let's not say it. But then there's also the piece of like, how do we help children that are inevitably going to grow up in this kind of environment to have that kind of, bias interruption, this way of thinking in a really simple way about, oh, no, that's racist.